Hey, Andy, we're here again for another session with Swell Building Inspections. We are looking at something interesting today, major defect, or is it not a big deal?
Hey, Jordan, how you going?
Yeah,
What have you
good,
got for me?
good. Let's have a look. I'll do a little share screen. We've got someone asking about some concrete cracking is the main issue. So I'll just have a little look in here on Reddit. So this is from Apocalypse. I think I'm not sure if that's supposed to be Apocalyptics.
I love these names.
Built. Yeah, it's so good. Hi all. Looking for some input on a building and pest report we've received before I ring the inspector. We've had our offer accepted, just subject to finance and building and pest, and just had the report done. They found a lot of minor stuff, which I'm not worried about, but I'm concerned about the structural major defect and hazard. I've attached the report pictures on this post. Would any of you be concerned? So we've had a little look at our defects, and we've got some big cracking going on here, which I'm just looking at here. It looks kind of like the fence is almost coming off the wall.
Yeah,
And then a bit of a deeper crack happening around the corner.
Yeah.
Seems to be a little bit more separate.
Yeah, it looks like one's
what are you
to do with
thinking?
the fence. Yeah. So it seems as though, based just on the photos that I can see, that the fence movement away from the house, that could just be to do with the fences, like the brick fence that's been rendered. The foundations for that brick fence are not adequate enough, and that might be what's causing that from come away from the house like that. That can still be a safety hazard. We've seen in the news in recent times, brick walls or brick fences coming down on people, and it can be very dangerous. So, in terms of that sort of thing, yeah, it is a major safety hazard. The fence part of it's not associated with the actual building itself, though. It is a property safety issue. So, but then those other cracks that are further down, they appear to be on the actual house wall itself. And from what the notes say in that respect, it's saying that some of those cracks are larger ones, which they've got categories that they've based their cracking. How they do their reporting, and from that they've established that they believe a structural engineer needs to be engaged. So this is exactly the sort of thing that we come across all the time, and it is something that would require structural engineer to come in and to have a look at. That would be my take on it as well. Yeah, it definitely needs like an external structural expert to come in and say, all right, this is your problem and this is how it needs to be fixed.
Right. What's the worst you've seen?
Oh, the worst I've seen is probably 2/3 of the house that is basically dropping down, like subsiding substantially in different sections and different directions, and on a hillside. So that it wasn't catastrophic to the point that the whole house needed to be knocked down. I have heard stories of foundational failures being bad enough where it's best just to remove the house. But we've reported on ones in the last 12 months where it's over $100,000 worth of defects that need rectification, and that's a combination of, say, $50,000 to $60,000 worth of underpinning, and then a further $50,000 worth of repairs that then need to happen once it's been underpinned, because you're not just fixing the foundation, but you're then needing to, especially if you're doing the underpinning where you're lifting the house back into position, it's going to cause damage to wall linings and possibly waterproofing and tiling, and all these sorts of finishes are going to have issues that happen with it. So that you're going to have a situation where you're going to have to fix those things once you've done the foundational repairs.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. And if you were looking at this potentially, what would your estimates be? Like you just gave us 100 grand, like is the
Yeah.
worst thing. What do you
Yeah,
think
well,
would be
yeah, I mean, it
roughly?
depends. Like for starters, like that fence, the photos don't show how long that fence is. Given that it's probably a city property, and from what I can see with the shadowing in that picture, it looks as though that fence may only be a couple of meters long.
Uh-huh.
And that, so for that particular item, it may just be a basic replacement of that brick fence. And you'd have a couple of different options for that. You'd replace it with another brick fence where you'd have to rip that out, redo new foundations that aren't going to move, and build a new brick fence. So, it would depend on what level of finish you're wanting to go for there with the render, if you're doing like for like, or if you were to just replace it with a color bond fence, which would be a cheaper
Yeah,
option.
right.
And you would have the same height fence, and you could do the color bond fence in the same color as the roof and make it all look nice. It'd be a much cheaper option to fix something like that, and you wouldn't have the same foundational brick wall safety issue.
Yeah,
It won't
right.
happen
Okay.
again. And it would depend if it's a neighbouring fence as well, or has anything to do with boundaries. So there's all that taken into consideration. But the cracking in the house, say if it was isolated to one corner of the house, again, there's always multiple ways of fixing something. So with underpinning, there's what's referred to as traditional underpinning, which is where you're digging foundational piers underneath the existing footings and doing concrete piers underneath the existing foundations. That technique, you can either do that to hold the current foundation in the position that it's in, so it doesn't move any further, or you can lift it and do it as well. And then there's another option, which is like injecting a chemical product underneath the footing, which expands and can actually lift the house. And there's a number of companies that are now doing this. So I'm based down in Tasmania. We've noticed a couple of companies that are coming down here from the mainland quite regularly to do underpinning with this injection technology. And with that, they're able to guarantee like a warranty that comes with that as well. And it's considerably less expensive. So say
Yeah,
a
right.
job like that, where you might be underpinning a whole corner of a house to ensure that it's not going to move. A traditional underpinning that may cost 25,000 or more. This injection underpinning technique, it can be $7, $8, or $10,000, somewhere around there. Like it can literally be half the price, because it's less invasive and a lot less time on site and all those sorts of things. So
Right.
we're seeing those options, and within our reports and our estimates, we're saying to people, look, these are your options, and
Yeah.
you can do further investigation to see which option you want to choose.
Groovy. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you were doing the fence, give us
Yeah.
your cheapest estimate, most expensive. What's the range talking?
It might be $1,500 to fix that fence if you were to rip that existing one down and put a color bond one in to replace it. If it's like a 2 meter fence going between
Wow.
the wall,
It sounds like it
of
could
the
be
house and
cheaper
the
than
boundary.
it sounds like it could be cheaper than getting a structural engineer.
Oh yeah, see that sort of thing wouldn't require a structural engineer, because you're taking down that structural thing and you're
Right.
replacing it with a color bond fence. You're not going to need an engineer
Yeah.
for a color bond fence.
I think that's an
Um,
important thing for apocalyptic to consider.
yes, but the cracking in the house, yeah, definitely structural engineer or structural and underpinning or contractor that has a lot of those. Contractors have either in-house engineers or they have engineers that work alongside them, so it can be more cost-effective to engage them as one package, rather than separately going to an engineer and then needing to get a builder or a contractor involved separately. So
Right. Okay.
it depends on how severe the defect is. Like if it's affecting a lot of internal elements of the house, I would suggest getting a separate structural engineer and a separate builder in to engage that
Right.
sort of issue.
Yeah.
It's a
Okay.
case by case scenario, Jordan. Like, yeah,
No
we've
worries. So we'll put the
yeah,
cheapest for the fence we can do, but the most expensive you've seen for the underpinning is 100
yeah.
grand. Would that be about right?
Oh yeah, 100 plus, yeah, for sure.
100 plus. All right, I'm gonna whack that figure up in the video.
Just to scare everyone. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But there's hope. There's hope. You can get it sorted. You can get some things fixed, or negotiate potentially. Is that something that could be on the cards as well, if it's really
Yeah.
that much extra in price?
Well, yeah, we've had that situation where there's some foundational issues with a home. It wasn't particularly needing underpinning this particular scenario, but there were structural issues. There was about $100,000 worth of issues, and that buyer went back to the vendor and said, "Here, look, this is what we found," and they got the house 100 grand cheaper. So,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
then the buyer has to make the decision as to whether they take that punt and go, "All right, well, let's hope it's going to be 100 grand and no more," and we can go from there. So,
All right. Well, it's good news. It's a little bit in the good news basket. You can get something done, but be careful, huh?
yeah, get a building inspection.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Andy. If you have any questions for Andy and you're watching this or listening online, feel free to drop some comments in the chat and we can answer those next session. Cheers.
Excellent. Thanks, John.
Catch ya.